Morning, everybody. Welcome back to the 2012 Budget Committee. Any member of the public wishing to speak further regarding an issue on the 2012 Budget Committee agenda may appear before Council at its meeting on January 23rd, 2012 at 7 p.m. when the recommendations from this meeting will go forward for final consideration. If you wish to speak as a delegation, please sign the sheet located at the back of the room or notify the Clerk's Department no later than noon the day of the Council meeting. Any PowerPoint presentations must also be forwarded to the Clerk's Department no later than noon the day of the meeting. I do have regrets from Councillor Alan Elgar, who is representing the town and his constituents at an important Niagara Escarpment Commission meeting today. I don't see any others. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. We have two items on the agenda today. The first is the 2012 Budget Commissioners' presentations. The second is the community capital projects. If we're successful today, then we will not need to resume tomorrow morning, and that is my hope. So I'm not sure how long the questioning will go on, but we will see. If there are any directions from the committee today that require follow-up by our staff, those materials can either come back to one of the delegation days or, if need be, to the deliberation dates. So going from that, we have 5 presentations today. The first will be the corporate services being done by Commissioner Gord-Lalonde. We've got the Office of the Mayor and the Council, Office of the CAO, the Community Services, the Infrastructure and Transportation Services, and the Planning and Development Services. Members of the committee should have those in front of you. The other 2 items before members of the committee as a replacement to Appendix 1, Tab 29 of the operating budget book, and the change there is with respect to the number of full-time versus number of part-time positions, where some of them were moved from one to the other as they were placed in the inappropriate locations in the original version. I did provide you a large version of the how do we compare transfers to reserves versus amortization expense, which I spoke about earlier, and I think that's everything that should be before you. So, welcome, and we look forward to the presentation and materials.
Okay, thank you and good morning. As is the case for all Commission reports, we'll be addressing in our presentations the motion of October the 12th, which Budget Committee gave us some direction. And all presentations are developed from a PB2 perspective, and the focus is on programs and outcomes. Before I get into my Commission report, I'd like to answer some of the questions that were raised on January the 16th. They were, what are the elements of growth for which we can't charge? What are the town's debt levels compared to the provincial legislation? How does our infrastructure renewal measure up against other communities? And Mr. Bloomer will be answering the question about our road resurfacing analysis. The town's operating budget is $239 million with an additional $59 million in capital. Much of that goes into support activities and programs that the community uses. But it is also worth noting, and another perspective is that the town supports about $3.7 billion worth of assets, and all must be maintained and properly cared for. Some of the operating and capital budget is dedicated to the care of these assets. These assets are not dedicated to earning profit, as they would be in the private sector. They are available for the community, and their care and maintenance is an important element of the work that town staff do. Both Nancy and the CAO mentioned 2012 is going to be a significant year for financial plans. These studies are in keeping with and described by the Keep Our Community Affordable component of the Vision 2057 plan. Development charges bylaw must be in place by December 2012 in keeping with our DC settlement. The study will be supported by a transportation master plan and the Parks, Recreation, Culture and Library master plan. Because of the importance of this project, we're asking this committee to provide oversight to the DC study process. There will be a number of acquisitions and disposals this year in property, and the hospital local share funding plan is underway and will be brought forward this year. Later on in this agenda is a report regarding community capital projects. The Commissioner of Community Services and I are asking for a moratorium on certain capital projects until we have concluded the planning agenda, as the studies noted are likely to change the current 10-year capital forecast significantly. As we conduct the DC study, there will be a great deal more information regarding the actual cost of growth. But it came up at the last meeting, the last budget meeting, and as a simplified approach here, there are services for which DCs pay 100%, such as road, stormwater, fire, some studies, such as the DC study, and interest on DC money. Thank you very much. There are discounted services where the town contributes a 10% share, and these are noted in the slide, and then there are ineligible services. So that gives you a snapshot of what charges go to pay for. And then there are other discounts, and these include benefit to existing, uncommitted excess capacity, grant subsidies, and other contributions. It should be noted that while DCs are used to pay for a component of growth, they do not pay for the ongoing operation of facilities, where over time, the greatest share of the costs of a facility often reside. There was a question about debt charges, and this graph shows the overview of the town's debt charges. There are two categories of debt. Tax-supported debt, as indicated by the green line, has been capped by council at 6.25%. Self-supporting debt is not paid by taxes. Examples of self-supporting debt include DC debt, the soccer facility, which is owned by the town but paid for by the soccer club, and the red line delineates the sum of tax and self-supported debt, which council has capped at 12% and which is currently running at 4.4%. The provincial limit is marked by the purple line right at the very top of the graph, and it is 25%, and there are municipalities that do have debt charges of 25% of their revenue. This graph is based on the current 10-year forecast and does not include the impact of the hospital, the DC study, and the other activities that I've mentioned are coming along. As mentioned earlier, the town owns about $3.7 billion in capital assets. The town does not calculate amortization as part of the budgeting process. Rather, it is included in the financial statements. But for the purposes of financial planning, we calculate the capital gap and contribute to reserves to pay for the future of these facilities. This slide was prepared for Mississauga's budget presentation. It shows Oakville's transfers to reserves against the depreciation expense of our assets. As you can see, Oakville looks pretty good compared to other communities. I should caution, however, that depreciation costs and replacement costs are not the same, and while we look good compared to other communities, we still have challenges in managing our infrastructure replacement programs. And now on to corporate services. So we have a number of programs here. Council and Committee Services is represented today by Director or Clerk Kathy Best. Human Resources, our Director of Human Resources is out of town, not able to be with us today. But Financial Services is comprised of two departments. There's Financial Operations that is led by Lynn Horler, and there's Financial Planning, which is led by Nancy Sully. Our Legal Services is led by Doug Carr, who is here today. Information Systems and Services is led by Jeff Lannis, and Facilities and Construction Management is led by Shelley Switzer. So those represent our programs, and they're outlined at the tabs that are listed on the slide. Corporate Services makes up about 10% of the town's gross budget. And this slide presents the programs and services that comprise corporate services. I'd like to point out that the corporate services program budgets are not an end in themselves for the most part. For example, legal, human resources, and information systems spend all their budgets supporting the efforts of other departments. Facilities and construction management build facilities for transit and recreation and so on. But this gives you a snapshot of the amounts that are dedicated to those services. Under key accomplishments, corporate services generally supports the efforts of other departments and has few independent goals. For example, we provided construction management for the new transit facility and for QE Park Cultural Center. We provided information systems and support to the same projects. The web relaunch project would not have been possible without support from information systems. The Clean Air bylaw wouldn't have been drafted without support from legal. And of course, the related litigation speaks for itself. HR plays a role in staffing and recruitment for the new facilities, and out of finance, employees need to be paid. So now I'll focus on some of our independent accomplishments, but I really do believe the major contribution of corporate services is in supporting the efforts of the other commissions. But clerks reorganized to accommodate committee reductions and eliminated one permanent position in 2011. And the print and mailroom services were moved over to clerks, and the BIA constitutions were finished in 2011. Human Resources concluded negotiation of the CAW contract, and our performance appraisal system was moved to an electronic format. There were two major noise issues addressed: motorcycle noise and backup beeper noise, and the taxi issuance formula was finalized. Our capacity to accurately forecast salary and expense and benefit expenses has been significantly improved. We had a clean audit. I'm not sure if we should cheer about a clean audit, but it is a significant event. We have OMB approval for livable Oakville, and legal was able to recover costs of $500,000 from our power plant litigation expenses, which was a significant achievement. Several software systems were upgraded, and facilities and capital management won a Sustainable Communities Award and are now supporting the new transit facility, and they have taken on building management for the libraries. Under our key outcomes, your program performance measures book contains a great many measures for your review, and I've selected just a few to highlight. One of the goals of Human Resources is to develop management awareness of HR policies and legislation. Our HR department is small and relies on individual managers to appropriately execute related legislation and policies. These are things such as workplace safety, contract interpretation, vacancy management, etc. And as you can see, 84% of management believe their knowledge of HR policies improved in 2011. I've included a stat here from the IS&S Help Desk because managing also means providing services. The Help Desk closed 86% of 16,500 Help Desk calls last year within 24 hours. As has been noted in the presentations of the last couple of days, our reserves and debt levels are in good shape. We had an unqualified or clean audit in 2010. Administrative Services just initiated the 2011 audit on Tuesday. But I'd also like to note that in addition to the quarterly variance reports we provide to Council, we also provide monthly reports to management, and the month ends are closed within 9 days of the close. Finally, I've chosen an indicator that speaks to ongoing operations of financial services. Accounts payable and receivable are always processed in a timely way. The same is true for payroll and tax processing, but I did not have room to put them up. Asset management and infrastructure renewal are becoming the subject of greater attention, and our audit now includes financial information regarding our tangible capital assets and their depreciation. I've noted the construction of a few significant buildings where construction was completed, mostly completed, or finally finished off in 2011. Internal staff managed the construction of these facilities successfully and at a great discount rate compared to the costs of outsourcing construction management. Clerk's office has a responsibility to support council and committee in keeping with the provincially legislated framework defined by the Municipal Act, and I'm pleased to report that our processes were all compliant in 2011. Furthermore, they continue to meet legislative requirements relating to MPIPA and vital statistics. And we continue to nudge the performance monitoring agenda forward. Not only were there performance indicators provided to Council in their information package each month, but a subset were also posted on the web each month. And finally, for key outcomes, bylaw and licensing issued 17,000 licenses, and in terms of charges, we did not have to withdraw any cases for lack of evidence, but they also targeted enforcement blitzes, addressed community concerns such as driving schools and ice cream vendors. And if bylaw cases went to court, we were successfully prosecuting 91% of them. Legal services is a challenge to measure, So I'd like to note that 2011 saw the conclusion of a number of significant matters for the town. Various appeals associated with the power plant litigation were settled, and as I've noted, legal recovered $500,000 in taxes, or in costs for that matter. Livable Oakville was approved, and a number of settlements were negotiated, including Shelley's, Melrose, 394 Lakeshore, Silgo Developments, among others. Properties held by the town for future activities such as road and grade separations that can be leased are leased and are self-supporting most of the time. And groups who use Town Hall are generally satisfied with the setup. Financial drivers for corporate services are fairly limited. We're subject to inflationary pressures. Revenue is expected to reduce mainly due to the impact of e-bingo. Software maintenance costs continue to be a driving force. At one time, software maintenance costs could be expected to run at 15 to 20% of the purchase price, but now the rate is sometimes as high as 30%. The impact of capital is also fairly limited in corporate services, as we don't have very large capital budgets compared to community or infrastructure services. But when new buildings are built, we have to maintain them, and when the departments start using new software, it has to be supported. Key initiatives for 2012. As has been mentioned several times, we'll be working through a new DC background study and bylaw. It must be completed by December 2012. This will also contribute to our need for a new 10-year capital plan. We continue to develop our efforts at workforce metrics. Metrics are fundamental to helping to determine where to best focus our efforts. For example, measurement of sick leave and sick leave costs has contributed to a focus on return to work and accommodation programs. 2012 is a reassessment year for MPAC, which will initiate a great deal of analysis by our tax group. We would like to develop a comprehensive bylaw enforcement strategy in 2012. A number of departments are depending on new software systems. Clerks, building, planning, the contact center are all looking for additional support in 2012, which I've grouped under the title of e-government in the slide. And we will be conducting efficiency reviews, as will every other commission. Our capital projects are in the capital book, and I've put the tabs up for you. Standards set by the payment card industry continue to evolve, and systems to ensure compliance and the ability for the town to continue to use debit and credit cards are being put in place. The radio system and AVL infrastructure to support service improvements in transit, roads and works, parks, and open space was started in 2011 and will continue in 2012. Hardware evergreening is an ongoing capital program that has changed significantly over the years. What started as PC replacement every 3 years is back down to every 5, but the program now covers a great many more items, such as servers, special purpose security, and disaster management devices. Asset management enhancements are providing strategic support in helping us analyze the capital gap and to manage our infrastructure renewal programs. As well, this year, asset management will be used to support our DC background study. And finally, we'll be renovating buildings and removing accessibility barriers. In our suite of programs, we only had 3 that qualified for enhanced service in our September 30th report: webcasting of council and committee meetings, evening technical support of various committee meetings, and the election contribution rebate program. Under the, get ahead of myself here. Under the Budget Committee reduction, Budget Committee directed that we review administrative services in office operations such as clerks and information systems and solutions. Both of these departments, programs, participated in the corporate base and revenue review that we conducted as we built this budget. Clerks was downsized in 2011 due to the elimination of the Citizens Advisory Committees. However, it has continued to provide support work required through the development of some new committees, and we will be evaluating these impacts further in 2012. Printing and mail service moved to Clerk's Department. Information systems and clerks have contributed through gapping whenever possible in keeping with the vacancy management policy. IS&S, as well as other departments, are evaluating back office efficiencies with Oakville Hydro Corporation. The internal auditor is now sharing some of his time with Oakville Hydro, and we have a fleet maintenance agreement with them, and we are hoping to extend these into IS&S in 2012. And IS&S, as well as other departments, are reviewing the shared services that are already in place with the library to see if they can be extended or made more efficient. A Budget Committee direction, was to review opportunities to increase fees, and there will be specific information in some of the other commission reports about this. But in corporate services, a key deliverable for financial services in 2012 is the development of a fees and cost recovery strategy. And recoveries for municipal services to support Halton Region road maintenance have been assessed and reviewed, and they are being increased and they are being phased in over the next couple of years. Review enhanced programs, as I have already mentioned, these were the three. The cost of webcasting is about $80,000 a year. Evening technical support is about $5,000 a year. And the election rebate contribution program is about $78,000 a year. The second area of review was we reviewed all of those programs where there's been a significant increase in funding since 2006. Facilities management and construction were not identified as an enhanced service in the September 30th report. Nevertheless, their budget has increased by $875,000 from 2006 to 2011. This has mainly been due to the department taking on responsibility for construction management. This has facilitated significant savings as the fees for construction and project management purchased from the private sector are significant at about 3% of the cost of construction, as opposed to the 1% when we provide them internally. And I did a brief calculation on a $40 million project, which we've had a few. Outsourced construction management fees would be in the range of about $1.2 million, and internally they're in the range of about $400,000. And this chart emphasizes areas where council may choose to make savings. Each commissioner presentation will contain one, and a comprehensive compilation of all of the commission presentations will be available to you. When the committee returns for deliberations, this will be provided interactively so that the overall impact on the tax levy can be reviewed, as been the case in past years. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Councillor DeMoff?
The DC study, when I go to the capital book, I see it in 2016. Is it?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the budget for it was already approved in 2011 because we had to begin the preliminary work during 2011.
Any others? Any other members of council? I have a couple of questions. One is on your debt charges limit slide, which is slide 6. Would you happen to know how Toronto would compare?
I do not know the answer to that question. We can undertake to find that out.
Could we look that up? I think it would be helpful for people to understand how our major neighbor next door might compare. The other is on slide 8. You've got the slide from Mississauga. I provided a 2010 budget version of that, and I wonder, would you be able to project the 2012 version of that? Because Oakville's number changes significantly from 2010 to 2011, and I think there's another significant boost.
We'd be happy to undertake that. There are a number of variables in our capital budget, as you know, but we will give you some information at the next set of meetings.
Thank you very much. Okay, if there are, Mayor Burton.
There it is. I regularly review other municipalities' budgets, and I was struck by the debt forecast of some of the communities on this slide who have not been saving for the rainy day, so to speak, of putting away money for asset renewal, and including one that's famous for being debt-free and apparently is going to be debt-rich starting this year. I wonder if the residents of Oakville, they might appreciate seeing the contrast so that they can understand how well town staff have provided for so long for this issue. You know, I've often said that our shortcomings are easily and widely communicated, but your successes aren't always so easily and widely distributed. And since you over several generations have done such an outstanding job on this. I wonder if you, I mean, I know we don't like to compare ourselves to our neighbors because there's a certain, you know, professionalism that doesn't want to call attention to each other, but you might want to think about how you tell what a good story you have to tell here.
Thank you. We will consider that. I think it is a good news story.
Thank you.
Any others? Thank you very much. And if we could go on to presentation number 2, which is Jane Korsmosh, I think you are presenting the Office of the Mayor and Council Office of the CAO.
Thank you, and good morning. The programs and services that I'll be talking to you this morning are found under Tab 2, and I'll be speaking to the political governance side of Tab 2, the Office of the Mayor and Council. Administrative Executive Management, which is Tab 3, and that refers to the Office of the CAO, as well as the offices of all the commission heads. The internal audit is headed by Pierre Savageau. Service Oakville and Strategy and Policy and Communications are under my department. Looking at these programs overall, they represent just over 2% of the gross operating and capital budget, and slightly more of the net operating and capital because they're not revenue generating programs. And when you look at the division of resources within this group of departments, they represent $6.3 million of the gross budget and 6.25 of the net budget. Looking at key accomplishments, and I do want to emphasize here that we're speaking about the board and senior management of the corporation. So you'll see corporate accomplishments are represented here that really credit needs to go to the organization and not just the senior leadership. But we did want to highlight them because they've been key priorities that have been set by council and certainly a focus of our senior executive team. When we look at the overall organization, the town is in a strong financial position, as Commissioner Gord-Lalonde was highlighting for you. We have high levels of citizen satisfaction with town programs and services, and we have an engaged and stable workforce. And those are critical factors towards the success of our corporation. Some of the highlights for 2012 within this area include the launch of Vision 2057, which will bring together all of the town's master plans and studies. There's a diverse group of studies and master plans, but they're all interconnected. And Vision 27 is a community planning framework that will set direction not only for today, but really will guide us through to the bicentennial of the town in 2057. There are some unique accomplishments in this area, and I do want to highlight them. We have the relaunch of the town's website, which recently went live to the public. We had the development of a guide to public engagement, which will really be transforming how the town reaches out to the citizens. We had a creation of a new management accountability framework, and that's certainly well displayed throughout all our internal boardrooms, and it's an accountability framework that will help management in its decision making, focusing on ensuring that we're a citizen-focused organization and that we have the right policies and programs, risk management, change management, and information management to guide the organization into the future. We also, of course, want to highlight that council did establish it was a new, the first year of a new term of council, and we have a new 4-year strategic plan, which was unanimously approved by council. Looking at their key outcomes, and again, we've selected a few of the key performance indicators that are within the budget books. Looking at overall citizen satisfaction, we had very strong results, and we tracked this through our Pollara citizen survey in terms of both with town programs and services and satisfaction with town government. And, Pollara does highlight that these numbers are very high, specifically around town government, because traditionally you don't see governments rated that highly in public surveys, so that's something to be very proud of. We're flagging the public satisfaction with recent contact with the town is an area that we're seeking to improve, and that's a major focus of our Service Oakville initiative. Fiscally sustainable. Again, this is one of Council's strategic priorities, and the measures are showing that we're in a very strong financial position. Our employees are obviously critical to the successful delivery of all the town programs and services, and ensuring an engaged and knowledgeable workforce is a key priority of the Office of the CAO. We implemented an employee engagement survey, and this has given us a lot of statistics in terms of our employees. And one of the things that we have highlighted here, that we had 79% of our employees who we surveyed indicated they were committed to the organization, and this is 18% above the municipal database. So what that tells Council is that people are committed to this organization, and they're committed to service delivery. We also rated very high in terms of their commitment to customer service, and this reflects in overall satisfaction with town programs and services. Looking at how we inform and engage our public, again, it was noted that we have a very high level of satisfaction with the amount of information that the town provides. We do know that our website has become a key tool for the public to access information about the town, so that was one of the reasons we focused on it last year and have relaunched it to make it even more easier and more accessible for the public. The second bullet point should actually read, satisfied with opportunities for public involvement in town government. And again, this is a number that is comparatively very high compared to other municipalities. We do have a public that is highly engaged in Oakville. Certainly, it seems to be that when you offer opportunities for involvement, it begets demand for more opportunities for involvement. So that's a strong area. And I highlighted the web visits generated from our town RSS feeds because, although we have over 2 million page visits per year, these ones represent people who have registered to receive information from the town and then come and visit the pages. So that is a significant number, and those are generated from our news releases and from our public notices. We have transit RSS feeds. And I expect that will grow this year because we're also launching, our Facebook and our Twitter, so we'll be reaching out in more ways to the public. And did want to highlight that after 3 full days of operation, we have over 425 followers on Twitter already. So we're very pleased at how quickly people are embracing the new social media that we're launching. And again, management accountability, a key focus of the commissioners and the CAO. And we really do focus on ensuring that Council is provided with regular information on town operations, that all of our departments are aligned with Council's priorities. And the internal auditor did highlight that so far 64% of his recommendations have been implemented, but he's confident that the rest of the recommendations, there are ongoing discussions with management, and that good progress is being made in that area. When we look at the key financial drivers for this area, again, like other departments, inflationary pressures are driving costs up. You will see over the next year to 2 the implementation of Service Oakville, as well as a continued expansion of our online services. We also are looking at the compliance with both communications and customer service accessibility standards. So we have our new Oakville.ca is fully compliant with accessibility standards, but right now there's still a lot of work being done in defining those standards, and particularly around accessible, what's called PDF. So we'll be doing a lot of training and work in this area over the next year or 2. Looking at what we'll be doing in 2012, and obviously we're going to continue to implement Council's strategic plan priorities, and I'll be updating Council next week on the key initiatives that will be undertaken in 2012 as part of your strategic plan. Continuing to drive the Vision 2057 studies and master plans, as Gord mentioned, the DC study. Again, we're keeping focus on direction from Council around tax increases, and certainly to implement the Town Guide to Public Engagement so that we continue to have a public that's satisfied with their opportunities to be involved in government. Within our communications program, when we do, we tend to highlight the operational costs for operating a new facility, but I also wanted to highlight it also drives demand in other areas of the organization. So when we launch a new facility like QE Park, it has all sorts of new programs, and we need to promote and market those programs to get people in and attending them. So we'll be doing a lot of work supporting those new programs. We do have a employee engagement survey on tap for this year. You know, as much as we're going to take a slight pause for about a week or two to, you know, enjoy our new website, we'll be beginning phase 2 and continuing work on that very shortly. Again, as I mentioned, we're going to continue for internal audit to implement the work plan, and certainly, you know, Pierre has a very full plate of audits planned for this year. And Service Oakville will be moving forward with Wave 2, which includes the implementation of the CRM software in the identified departments. So that will really enhance our ability to report to Council on customer service. Most of these initiatives are actually multi-year initiatives, so you'll see that they'll be reflected in what we're doing in 2013 to 2014. So I see this as a continued ongoing work plan. The key capital projects, again, we're not, you know, have a lot in capital, and most of them they're both found under tab 2, which is the general government tab of your capital book. So we have dedicated resources to continue upgrades to Oakville.ca. We're looking at more online forms, as Commissioner Lalonde mentioned, e-services, and we're also continuing with our accessibility improvements. And we're looking at developing new web-based applications, and certainly that is a growth area. We're looking at how we comply and address mobile standards as well. And with Service Oakville, the key priorities are to create the full service contact center later this year, going beyond the front desk that has been successfully implemented, and implementing our customer relationship management software. When we reported out on our enhanced level of services in this area, we did highlight that we do have a stronger program of public and employee engagement, and one element of that is our surveys. Both we've implemented a program of alternate years of employee and citizen satisfaction surveys. So we're not recommending that we change the biannual citizen survey, because it is very helpful to us in our key performance indicators and tracking public satisfaction, which tends issues emerge very quickly. So we do see some changes on that survey. With our employee engagement survey, it's a more you know, we need to establish the baseline, which is why we want to continue with this year's proposed survey. But then we do see going forward, we probably can reduce the frequency of those surveys, which would lead to a small annual reduction to which we would, because we would supplement formal surveys with more informal survey techniques. I'm reporting back on Council direction from last March. There was a request to report on the distribution of advertising purchases between our two local papers because Council had reduced the overall advertising budget last year. So I'm reporting back on the numbers for 2011. I mean, obviously we had to wait to track out. We were given direction in March to reduce the advertising. Again, because our Oakville Beaver is our designated paper for statutory advertising. It's also the town-wide paper, so it does have a larger share of the advertising budget because of its circulation. And the 59,000 represents just over 52,000 homes, and they have an apartment drop that represents another 7,000 issues. There was also questions about statutory versus non-statutory advertising. And requirements for statutory advertising are found in the Municipal Act as well as the Planning Act. And the cost for most statutory ads that are placed for applicants, and that would primarily be on the planning and some of our engineering ads, I believe, as well, they're recovered through application fees. So even we have worked hard to simplify those ads, to make them a little bit smaller, but those costs are covered they're recovered through their application fees. So it doesn't have an overall impact on that budget. But for the non-statutory ones in planning, it certainly does, and we're really focusing on driving people to the website because we're putting all our ads and our notices are on the website as well. So we have implemented plain language standards and reduced the overall size and frequency of some of the notice ads. And I will say that recently we had an example of another level of government that had put in one of their statutory ads that hadn't been, they don't have a plain language process, and it led to immediate calls because there was confusion over, what does this mean and which level of government, is placing this ad and how come we can't understand it. So it is really critical when we're putting those ads that we make it easy for people to understand and participate if they want to. As I note, those ads do have to go into the Oakville Beaver because that is the designated paper with the larger circulation. All of these standards are set out in our public notice and engagement policy. There's a large appendix to it which will fully sets out every type of pretty much statutory advertising and non-statutory that we do and where you'll find it. I did want to flag as well, though, because a significant portion of our local advertising is actually for marketing, for town events and programs. And in many cases, that's to generate revenue for our fee-based programs. We also use advertising to demonstrate accountability, to respond to issues of public interest, and I'll use the example of the coyotes. Obviously there's a lot of public concern right now about coyotes, so right away we're hosting a public meeting and we want to increase awareness of it. So while we have it on our website, we're also running ads to make sure that we reach out to people in many different forums, because some people actually do still read the local paper, and certainly they look at it for local events. It is the second most frequent source of information for the public about town programs and services. So it is important in informing the public on important town initiatives. So in summary, in terms of the budget reduction opportunities, we have identified that there is a small annualized savings for if we reduce the frequency of the employee survey, but we're recommending that not be implemented until the next round of employee surveys, which would have been scheduled for 2014. Any questions?
Members of committee? Other members of council? Thank you very much. We appreciate your materials. Number 3, Dominic Leonardo will be presenting the community services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of committee, and good morning. Today I'm pleased to provide you with an overview of the community services budget. At the end of my presentation, there will be an opportunity for some questions and dialogue with not only myself, but perhaps our directors as well. Our Commission delivers a number of programs and services. These are identified on these slides. I think most of you are familiar with the details of which. They are found in the tab shown on the slide. But I do want to introduce our management team. Lee Grant, who's our fire chief. Chris Mark is our director of parks and open space. Nina DeVal is our director of recreation and culture. And Charlotte Meisner is the acting CAO at the libraries. Like our other fellow presentations and commissioners, our budget in terms of gross compared to the entire corporation is about 32% for both capital and net. when the, both capital and operating, when you include the capital budget in that number. Our Commission's operating and capital expenditures is approximately $106.5 million, and it is offset by about $25.1 million in revenues for a net impact of about $81.4 million. Majority of those revenues are coming from our parks and open space, recreation and culture programs, and they make up the majority of those revenues, as you see there. So you do see a difference between our operating costs and our net operating costs that impact our Commission. And there are no new requests being proposed in our budget for 2012. There are a number of accomplishments that are highlighted over the next couple of slides. Each help achieve Council's strategic plan and objectives. Examples of these are the design and construction of our new 144,000 square feet Queen Elizabeth Park Community and Cultural Centre. Certainly we're very proud of that, and I know Council is very proud of that, and I know the community is looking forward to its opening. But just as important was the development of an operating model for this unique and what we believe to be a dynamic facility. The completion of our Parks, Recreation, and Library Facilities Master Plan is now in its public consultation phase. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. And we were pleased to partner with the Oakville Symphony in 2011 for a new acoustic shell at the theatre, as well as completing our theatre business plan. Renovations were completed at the Woodside Library. As well, a teen book depot was introduced at our Kerr Street Ministries. We continue to implement our fire master plan to ensure safety of our existing citizens and future residents, including developing a strategy for new services north of Dundas. We'll be talking a little bit further about a new fire station north of Dundas, but we're also looking at opportunities for joint venture with Halton EMS, as well as we re-signed our partnership agreements with EMS in terms of tiered responses, as well as our dispatch agreement with the Burlington Fire Department. Within our parks and open space, we've developed a number of new parks and facilities as shown on this slide. Notably, we finished the Westwood Park in the first phase of Bronte Heritage Waterfront Park, and we completed a partnership with Oakville Little League for the lights at Cornwall Park. We completed our Harbours financial strategic plan. As you know, Harbours is generally self-sustaining, and that plan gives us that guidance for a number of years to come. In 2011, we undertook to repair the seawall at the Oakville Harbour, as well as complete a dredge at that harbour. And of course, one of our biggest issues is the threat of emerald ash borer, EAB, which continues to threaten our ash canopy, and our Urban Forestry Division is taking a science-based approach in addressing this issue. A future report on the status and our accomplishments and our measures and our outcomes for EAB will be coming out later this spring. Of course, we also completed 3 Recreation Infrastructure Canada projects. The acronym is RINC. And these included 2 artificial turf fields, one at Bronte Athletic Field, one at North Park, as well as completing the renovations to the lobby at Chinook Arena. Over the next 3 years, we plan to undertake a number of key initiatives consistent with Council's strategic plan. As part of Vision 2057, we will continue implementing our fire master plan. We talked a little bit about that, and we anticipate a new fire station coming on board in early 2014. We will bring forward the results of our Parks, Recreation, and Library Master Plan, as well as looking at the needs of the Oakville Arena and Trafalgar Park, as well as the Southeast Oakville area in terms of recreation needs, all of which will be input into the land use study that we are working with our planning department, which also will come out later on this year. We will commence our Centennial Square study and move forward on the renovations of Town Square as part of our Downtown Oakville strategic review. And we'll be meeting our fiscal sustainability objectives by being part of the development charges process and our 10-year capital program. And we also be undertaking a review of our community capital project requests. Tongue-tie, I won't say that 3 times quickly, which I'll explain later in more detail. And you do have a report on that, and Gord Lalonde did make reference to it earlier in his presentation as well. Under our objectives of environmental sustainability, we will continue to enhance and protect our canopy cover by addressing threats by the emerald ash borer. We will continue to monitor our private tree bylaw and bring forward updates as required. In addition, we work with Council's subcommittee. We'll be finalizing our North Oakville Urban Forest Plan, which will help us achieve our 40% cover by 2057. But we'll also look at opportunities for recycling in parks. And we are currently in the process of commissioning, of course, our QEP Community and Cultural Center. Not quite finished, but we are getting there and certainly will be open by March. But just as important as that process is in terms of commissioning, we will continue to work with our partnership groups to monitor and evaluate our operating model over the next few years, as well as exploring partnership opportunities for developing our 16-mile sports complex. The OPL, the Oakville Public Library, will finalize its 4-year strategic plan in the spring of 2012, and a number of new parks, projects, and priorities will be established and identified upon completion of the development charges, our master plan, and of course our 10-year forecast. Some of those are included there. The next phase of the Bronte Heritage Waterfront Park, our North Oakville Trails, our BMX facilities that we've been looking at in Bronte, as well as the lands on the east side of the 16-mile creek, which we hope to start in 2012. We'll engage our harbor stakeholders in developing terms of reference and monitoring the outcomes of our harbor's sedimentation management plan, as well as our harbor's capacity plan. The next series of slides will summarize some of our key outcomes for the Commission under specific themes. We met our obligations under the emergency management targets to ensure compliance with our emergency management with the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. Just recently, the town received its annual essential level compliance certificate as it relates to emergency planning. You can see some of the targets and outcomes on this slide. And while emergency preparedness education was delivered in 116 locations, which we believe is significant, we may have actually overestimated the numbers that we could have or had the capacity to deliver, and we certainly will be reassessing those numbers in 2012. For satisfaction and access to services, we have achieved and surpassed our survey satisfaction rate, specifically around programs and services, and just as important, as well as around the appropriateness, quality, cleanliness of our facilities. As you can see, the primetime ice utilization actuals are slightly lower than targeted. This is a result of the enhanced level of services in our provision of arenas. While you might think from a financial and efficiency perspective, this may be seen as a negative, from a community benefit point of view, users enjoy an increased choice of time slots, including not having to book ice and use ice at 6 o'clock in the morning, as was the case previously. This does, however, create an opportunity for more balance in the use of ice, and I will discuss this a little bit later in my presentation. We've also seen some increases in non-prime time utilization, and library services outcomes are either meeting or exceeding their targets. More large tree service requests were dealt with than targeted, and we issued more private protection tree zone permits than projected as well. As approved by Council, we injected over 2,400 ash trees as part of our strategy to address the emerald ash borer threat. As I said, we were planning to report on that and the success of those injections with a report later on this year. And with respect to improving our services, there were 112 heritage markers that were restored in our cemeteries, and 13.25 hectares of new parkland was added, along with 3,200 meters of either new trails or trail improvements. Like many of the other commissions, our main financial drivers include capital impacts as a result of new facilities valued by, of course, our residents, and they are approximately $5 million in impact to our commission. Inflationary increases, as I said, dealing with the emerald ash borer, and of course the biggest financial driver is the new community center at Queen Elizabeth Park. And now I'm having technical difficulties, which gives me an opportunity to take a sip of my vodka. The vodka reference was I went to a private high school, and we had a priest who did bring to his math class a glass, not unlike this one, and we always assumed it was vodka, but in fact it is water, just for the record. Didn't want it to show up on town TV. Thank you. Now, as suggested in the earlier presentation from the CAO and the Finance Department, there are a number of enhanced programs and services that are enjoyed by residents, and frankly, these are what make Oakville, Oakville. These are summarized in a report to the Budget Committee on September the 30th of last year, and I think it's important to spend a few minutes going over those, not only to look at the comparators, but also the community benefits valued by our residents. I'm not going to suggest that Two Wharf is necessarily enhanced service. It is $32,000 in expenses that are given to Two Wharf, but there are no tax levy impacts as they are funded by fees to boaters. It should be noted, though, that Peel, Hamilton, Halton, and Toronto Police Services do operate a marine unit, but frankly, there are a number of volunteer organizations in the Great Lakes water system to provide added surveillance, added monitoring, and services to our communities and shoreline activities. All municipalities provide a variety of recreational programs as part of their standing offerings in either community centers or standalone facilities. Our services are consistent with our comparator municipalities of Mississauga, Guelph, and Burlington. In Oakville, we have been in a catch-up mode for facilities over the last number of years, and we have seen enhanced recreational services, especially with the addition of 60 Mile Creek, Joshua Creek, Arena, QEP, Pine Glen Indoor Soccer Field, and numerous new parks and park-related facilities. This slide shows a level of enhancement in recreation. The town, for example, has 2 designated youth centers where generally our comparator municipalities provide such facilities in their own individual facilities, and I think this is an added feature. As you know, our youth centers are in storefronts, and that's where really, when we're dealing with these kinds of youth, that's where it's probably, or it's, we believe, is more effective. We have 3 designated senior centers versus 1 in one of our comparator municipalities. Town has 5 outdoor pools. Guelph has 1, Burlington has 2, and Mississauga has 7. Again, these are services that are valued by our community and make Oakville, Oakville. At this time, we're enjoying a higher level of provision of ice standards, and while it is valued by many of the groups who have the opportunity, there is an opportunity to provide, perhaps look at some short-term adjustments, which, as I said earlier, I'll talk about shortly. Now, Mr. Chairman, cultural services are somewhat unique across the municipalities and different and somewhat difficult to compare. Funding models vary from municipality to municipality and generally reflect the community's history, culture, and frankly their values. However, the addition of QEP Community Center and Cultural Center has significantly increased the level of services for our cultural community, and it will provide a permanent hub to engage and interact with our arts and culture groups who have been asking for such a facility for a number of years. QEP is unique, and there really is no comparator. What our council has approved is a made-in-Oakville operating model. Staff believe that the operation of the center will be dynamic and will evolve with more experiences that we have and understanding our experiences with our user groups and the user group's capacity to use the center. Parks and open space centers, open space services are comparable with Burlington, Guelph, and Mississauga. Parks has an enhanced integrated pest management program, which we believe are the envy of a number of municipalities. We offer horticultural services for in-house plant production, as well as a conservatory show house, better word for a greenhouse, that can be booked for weddings and photography. This service is not provided by Burlington, Mississauga, or Guelph. The town does provide some tax levy supported programs to clean up and dispose of shoreline algae. Mississauga, Burlington do not provide this service. And Oakville provides an extensive goose management program, which is similar to that in Mississauga, but Burlington and clearly Guelph does not have that service. In our forestry area, as I said, we have a science-based EAB program that includes an injection program with a goal to slow down the spread of emerald ash borer and protect our ash tree inventory. The program includes research with other public agencies and scientists at various government levels, and we have developed an early detection system which is unique to the GTA. Oakville also provides enhanced services for boulevard grass cutting, with weekly mowing in May and June when the grass is growing rapidly. We are known for our extensive trail system, and we maintain over 200 kilometers of trails with dedicated full-time and part-time staff. Our woodlot management program includes not only hazardous pruning and removals on an ongoing basis, but also we provide stewardship programs such as prescribed berms, woodlot management plans, and insect and disease monitoring. The draft master plan has identified a need for the library services in Bronte, and at this time the Bronte Library has been moved to 2012 in our capital plans, but will be reviewed with the completion of the library's 4-year strategic plan, our Parks Recreation Library Master Plan, our DC study, and of course our 10-year capital forecast. The capital projects identified in our budget program are all in the tabs roughly from, I think, 5 to 7. And our 2012 capital program for our commission is roughly $17.2 million. And over the next 2 to 3 years, it's expected to be in that same range. Once we complete our Parks and Master Plan and DC study, we'll be in a better position to understand the future needs and properly address those based on all other needs at the town. Now, the capital expenditures are somewhat down from previous years, but as you know, there have been a number of new multi-million facilities that have been constructed and brought on stream in the last 3 years as we catch up with building both indoor recreation and park facilities. A summary of our capital program as well as the detail sheets are found in the budget books on tabs 5 to 8. Major projects for 2012 included design and construction of an interim fire station, as well as looking at future lands for Station 8 in Palermo. And this is the site that we are currently looking at jointly with EMS. We hope to commence our Centennial Park study for the lands at Navy and Lakeshore, where a central library, Centennial Pool, and theaters is located. And we will continue to invest in our existing infrastructure, including facilities, libraries, fire stations, parks, open spaces as well. Capital expenditures for a library will primarily focus on upgrading and enhancing furnishings and collections pending the results of their 4-year strategic plan and the master plan process. In parks, parks is our largest capital expenditure for 2012, a little over $10 million. And some of the projects that we are looking at have been identified on that slide as well. And I'm just not having any luck with technology this morning, so I will take another sip of my water.
Clearly an effort by ISMS for increased budget funding.
Ah, no, I know what it is. I'm using the wrong button. Truly, that was not part of my presentation for the interruptions. Like all commissions, we are reporting back on the Budget Committee direction for September the 30th. This first slide responds to maximizing cost recoveries, including sponsorship and marketing in our recreation and culture services area. Overall, the 2012 cost recovery ratios for recreation and culture services are projected to be the same as in previous years. Cost recovery rates have dropped in some areas. However, ice rentals have decreased, example, as a result of increased ice capacity, but other program changes and efficiencies have been made up to address some of these decreases, including but not limited to increases in sponsorship and advertising, in-kind sponsorship, revenue-generating programs, and revised camp operating models to reduce costs and increase revenues. These changes and efficiencies have all been incorporated in our 2012 budget. Now this slide summarizes our sponsorship and marketing program. It illustrates an increase in sponsorship and donation revenues being achieved specifically in our Recreation and Culture Department. These funds are used to support various community programs and initiatives, including but not limited to events such as the Santa Claus Parade and the Community Spirits Awards, theater and museum events, Make Your Move, Family Day activities, and those of you in the audience who are listening to On Town TV, if you've not enjoyed our Family Day events, please come out. They're jam-packed with activities in our community centers and our other facilities. You will have a great time. Sorry, that's just a plug for the department. We wish also to acknowledge Bud's Chevrolet and Rosehaven Homes for naming sponsorship at 16 Mile Complex, as well as RBC Royal Bank, Scotiabank, and Tim Hortons for their ongoing support on various community events and programs. Advertising revenues are projected to increase as well. This is primarily achieved from revenue sales from our brochure, arena boards, and the new digital signs that you see in our community centers. While staff continue to pursue corporate sponsorship, annual sustainability is often influenced by economic climate, as well as other community capital campaigns, both within Oakville and the broader GTA. As I said, we are looking forward to the opening of QEP in March, and with this opening, there will be a number of challenges in the operation of what we believe to be a very unique facility and service to our culture community. As I said, I'm not aware of any similar facility, either in scale or in scope, in the GTA, the province, or for that matter, all of Canada. The centre's operational model, recently approved by Council, at its foundation has a very strong working relationship with our user groups. All groups must be members and stakeholders. And just as an aside as well, we have implemented a phased-in approach in terms of staffing and operating costs over a 2-year program. Because the facility is a dynamic facility, we're not rushing to fully staff up, so we have phased that over at least 2 years. And we will have a better understanding of the needs of those staffing levels. Our membership groups must contribute voluntary hours and be responsible for setup and teardown and cleanup of individual rooms. We call this sweat equity, and it helps keep not only our costs down, but the fees that can be charged to user groups. Through this model, staff believes that there's an annual cost avoidance of between $350,000 to $400,000 annually. Many activities, such as programming events, will be operated in partnership with various arts groups to help reduce costs and maximize revenues. Revenue generation programs will be part of our program as well at the center. Through the development of QEP, our collective goal is to see our culture groups to be sustainable and even, in fact, perhaps grow. But the operation of this center is dynamic and needs to be monitored. Adjustments will be made as we learn more from our partners and from the practical experiences that we will both share. 5 working groups within the arts community have been established to assess us with various topics in terms of the operation of the center. Now, it is recognized that the operating model at QEP is different. Other operating models, similar to those with the gymnastics and the soccer club, are based on business plan commitments from those groups to pay for operating costs and repay loan payments. This is not the case with the arts groups at QEP, who do not have the same revenue source from their members. In addition, there is an opportunity to offset some costs at the QEP. This is related to our ice capacity, and I'll have a slide shortly. And at the end, we do want to invite everyone to come out to our opening in March at QEP. Staff has reviewed all rates and fees, and these are included in the budget documents that are before you. The Parks and Recreation rates and fees, for example, are based on the rates and fees pricing methodology approved by Council in October, and are based on a cost recoverable formula, and also recognizes benefits to the community and ability to pay. Commercial rates and non-resident rates, for example, will have a higher cost recovery rate than those charged to youth and Oakville residents. For some services, such as public swim and skate, no fee increase is recommended, as the current fee is already at the higher end of our competitors, or our comparators, or what the market will bear. Commercial rates, however, have increased to align with fee charged by for-profit service providers. There is no proposed increase to fees to boaters for the services provided by Two Wharf in 2012. Now, staff was also requested to look at the opportunity of closing the greenhouse, which currently acts as a conservatory and a floral production facility on Cornwall Road. It is used to grow some 120,000 annual flowers for the beautification of our streets and high-profile parks and civic locations. Potential annualized savings of about $69,000 can be achieved through the purchase of annual flowers from a commercial greenhouse operator. Our current cost to purchase materials and seeds to grow the flowers is approximately $169,000. When you subtract $100,000 to purchase those same materials, our net savings is $69,000. Now, it's important to note that these savings cannot be realized in 2012 as our greenhouse is in full production for our floral displays in 2012, but a decision should be made in 2012 during the budget process so that we can then have sufficient time for the transition and issue tenders for the 2013 growing season. The estimated asset replacement cost, which could be a potential savings as well, is roughly $1.23 million. Savings could also be achieved from the sale of the property, but would be offset by any demolition costs if the site is sold. Now, having said that, there are some community benefits that I think you need to be aware of. And these include that the facility is a conservatory enjoyed by our citizens, and it is actively booked for weddings and used for educational purposes. There are a number of volunteers who assist in the facility, as well as being used by individuals with special needs programs. The Horticultural Society conducts a junior garden club at the greenhouse, and of course this would be a loss to our conservatory facility for individuals to go and visit. We're proposing that should council want to pursue this, that we will have some more consultation, or we will have some consultation with the affected groups. Programs are reviewed on a regular basis, and adjustments are made based on usage and need. Rates and fees are set on the approved policy and methodology and evaluated based on the cost recovery ratios, community benefits, and of course market values. Now, subsequently to finalizing the budget document, there is a realization of additional savings at the Oakville Gallery budget as a result of recent staffing changes, and the reduction is about $27,000. This will not have an impact on the services provided by the galleries. Mr. Chairman, as part of the September 11th resolution, staff were also asked to review enhanced programs where such programs received increased funding. The first of these is within our fire department, and specifically in fire suppression and prevention. The additional resources for fire services actually brought the town to a consistent level with other GTAs. So in actual fact, we were more of a catch-up than we're actually enhanced services. This includes moving the department from, of course, 3 firefighters on a truck to 4 and allowing increased depth of fire coverage response throughout our town. Other increased funding for additional fire prevention training officers allowed implementation of 6 inspection zones as per the original master plan, as per the original fire master plan, as well as improving in-house staff training. A potential annual savings of $60,000 can be achieved by reallocating resources from our arena operations to QE Park Community Center. This is achievable by reallocating of ice time for service delivery efficiencies. Ice provision is a service that has been identified as an enhanced level of service. The impact of this in 2012 is $20,000. The annual savings is closer to $60,000. The savings reduction for 2012, of course, is we have commitments for both ice and floor rentals until at least the end of August. Under this scenario, user groups times would be assigned to ensure efficient use of ice times. It would not reduce the total number of hours that groups currently have, but in effect just reallocate them more efficiently. This would result in this would mean that some user groups may have to use perhaps some 7 a.m. time slots, or be flexible in using multiple arenas as opposed to staying to one arena. Now again, should committee wish us to pursue this, staff would recommend consultation with the user groups, and staff is prepared to do that and report back prior to the completion of the budget process. And again, a decision on this matter would be required during the 2012 budget process so that our ICE allocations, which normally occur in May and June, for the following September, for this coming September, can be realized. Council has also approved increases in our forestry budget over the last number of years. These include additional resources to our urban forest management plan, including improved woodlot order responses for pruning and removal of hazardous trees adjacent to trails and private backyards. Additional staff for forest protection, insect and disease management, and communications, including such thing as gypsy moth, administration of our private tree bylaw, and of course the management of our emerald ash borer threat. Similar enhanced programs are in parks. As a result of increase in parkland, council approved the conversion of seasonal staff to full-time staff, allowing better service for snow removal, winter garbage pickups, patrols of our parks and sports fields, as well as winter control operations monitoring. 2 years ago, council approved the weekly mowing of boulevards during the month of May and June, especially when we see rapid growth in the turf, and this results in a much more pleasing appearance in our streetscapes during those 2 months. Mr. Chairman, there were a couple of issues that were outstanding and that we're reporting back today. The first is on the design and construction of the interim fire station number 9. You recall that we had a report before committee and council in September that suggested that the first fire station to be built would be fire station number 9 north of Dundas. Its permanent location is located at Burnhamthorpe Road and 6th Line, but those lands do not have servicing capacity at this time. The master plan recommends that the Station 9 come on board by 2014. So we have come up with an interim solution by relocating that station at the north end of the Yards Depot, and it will be operational in 2014, in early 2014. It does have some operational impacts in terms of staffing being hired in 2013, the latter part of 2013 for training purposes. And the question that this was deferred back to staff was, what is the funding source? And I'm here today to confirm that it will be development charges. Now also on this past week, you were provided with a report jointly written by Mr. Lalonde and I, which identifies the community capital projects requests. You have a report in front of you that was passed out on Monday. This report provides more detail as it relates to these requests, particularly around multi-million-dollar projects. Currently, formal requests include a 50-meter pool, as well as the expansion of the curling club and the Pine Glen Soccer Center. Informal expressions of interest include additional and enhanced facilities from the Oakville Soccer Club, Gymnastics Club, as well as a symphony. In order to evaluate council's capacity to, the town's capacity to undertake such multi-million-dollar projects, staff is recommending that these projects be referred to the 10-year capital project to align with the proposed DC review, as well as the completion of our master plan. So no funds at this point are allocated for these projects, but I do want to give you the assurance that we continue discussions with the various groups so that we understand the scope and the scale, and have asked for various business plans, but what we're suggesting is any final decision be referred to the, based on the completion of the 10-year forecast. Now, Mr. Chairman, we all have slides that look similar to this, so these are just a summary of the budget reduction options that are before you. And Nancy Sully will provide you with a summary of all commission charts that will help you in your deliberations. And I just want to highlight a couple of things. The greenhouse purchase from a commercial greenhouse cannot be achieved in 2013, but a decision should be made during this budget deliberations. And so these are the recommended opportunities. We have a number of non-recommended. Again, these are services that are valued and have community benefits, and they're outlined there. And don't think there's anything there that sort of needs further clarification. I believe that I provided that already in my budget presentation. And of course, the last slide. Now, QE Park is on there. Of course, council could always consider perhaps a reduced service there. We're not at all suggesting that we don't open it, but perhaps maybe if there are things that you want us to look at this point, our position as staff is give us a year to operate it. We have told you that we have delayed certain hiring of staff. We will monitor the partnerships that we have with the various groups, and I think that's the most prudent way to deal with that issue. And I think we did make a commitment to report back after a year of running the facility. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation, and certainly I'm pleased to respond to any questions, or if there are other issues you wish us to explore and bring back, we'll be pleased to do that as well.